Hi, and welcome back to Find Yourself in a Character, my weekly video series to take us on an exploration of my favorite characters and their journeys. I'm Jenny D, author, consultant, and international promoter of Love and Triumph. In this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about the book Hunger by Roxane Gay. It's a memoir of her body, and it's not an inspirational story as much as it's a story about raw emotions, truth, and trauma. Now, it was a difficult book for me to read, I will have to say, because I resonated a lot with it, with Roxane and her personal journey. And, it made me realize that we all have traumas. We all go through childhood experiences, and then we all from it form these coping mechanisms. And sometimes they come out in addictions like drugs, sex, food. Others are just shutting down and not letting people in and building these kind of barriers to protect ourselves. Sometimes they're emotional, sometimes they're physical, sometimes they're mental. They are all different kinds of coping mechanisms, and it depends on the person, right? But for me, my trauma is that, and we work through them and everything, but there's always this underlying, how do I say this? There's always this underlying trigger that brings us back to the natural comfort of whatever vice that we chose. So for me, it's food. It's plain and simple food. And, it goes beyond whatever the trauma was that you experienced in your life, because that set an emotional pattern of behaviors, and repetition makes it comfortable. And so it becomes your go-to when the slightest thing causes you the PTSD that you experience. And yes, therapy and healing and all kinds of working to get through whatever trauma is, whatever you experience in your life, helps you, and it brings you a wholeness and everything to work through it. And we all strive to do that, I would hope. But there's so much depth to what happens to you and that coping that occurs. So that's what kind of this book triggered for me, was that the root of why I eat a little bit more than I should, or I reach for food for comfort when I feel discomfort. And it's like a habit. And, you can self-correct and you can improve along the way and, catch yourself and replace it with different vices. Like so many, nowhere near where I used to be in life. And, I'll go for a walk, or I'll listen to music and sing it out. And, there's different things that I'll do, or I'll get creative is like one of my favorite things to do, because then I'll channel into like, I'll crochet a snail or just color or whatever, or make a video. So I found better coping mechanisms, and you find it along the way. So I feel like I got off track with the character. So anyway, Roxane is a true story about her life, and then what happened to her and how it snowballed into this, eating obsession and this desire to have weight to protect herself from ever being hurt like that again. And so I felt that strongly with myself, because a lot of this is protection, and it's false protection, but it's in your head when you're a child and you set this coping mechanism, you don't have the maturity to realize what you're doing. You're just kind of like operating on whatever autopilot you're on. And so this book was very illuminating to see the tiny triggers, to see the reasons behind it, and to it gave me a sense of, hey, this is how I can keep evolving and, keep fighting the good fight, because, I don't want to be controlled by anything other than whatever controls the universe, right? So it was a hardcore book. It was raw. There was no happy ending. There was no I discovered this about myself and I resolved it, and now I'm thin and everybody loves me. And it was not that. It was, this is who I am. This is why I am who I am. This is what I work through. This is what I've been through. I don't want your pity. This is just my story. And I'm just putting it out there. And, mad respect for Roxane and everything she's been through, and how she's a best-selling author, and she made her dreams come true. It's amazing. despite everything. And who cares what she looks like? She's amazing. And that's like the message I got too. It's like, who says that we have to be thin to be anybody, to be successful? So, it was a great book. It was eye-opening. It, showed you where you can balance acceptance with the need to change, because, you don't want to keep these poor behaviors. So you work through them. And so it's ultimately, the message is that we are all a work in progress, and that it's possible, but also a lot of, not acceptance, but more grace, like personal grace. Give yourself a break. Like, it's beyond you. Look into what you can do to help yourself if you're stuck. Or if you're not stuck, if you're happy where you are, F everybody, and just be who you are. And so I saw a lot of myself in Roxane, and I thought it was an extremely powerful book. For anybody who is struggling specifically with food issues, I highly recommend it, because it will give you a sense of feeling that you are not alone. It's beautifully written. You're going to want your Kleenex, because it brings up some emotions, but it is beautifully written, beautifully presented, very well done, and highly recommended. So if you want to check out more about Roxane, the book again is called Hunger by Roxane Gay. I'm Jenny D. If you want to learn more about me and my works, you can find me at www.jennyd.author.com. Tune in next week for another episode of Find Yourself in a Character.